on cannabis integration. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the cannabis integration and how that is working. So I wanted to start out by talking about the history of legalization here in California. In 1996, Proposition 215 passed, and that was a medical marijuana proposition that allowed kind of an acceptance of if someone has a medical condition, then that should be considered if they get arrested. And there were some issues with that. So in 2003, there was the Senate Bill 420 aimed at kind of correcting some of the gaps in Proposition 215, and that included having the medical marijuana card. So that's when that started. Also, I wanted to say that in 1996, California was the first state to have any kind of legalization of cannabis. In 2015, there was a Senate Bill 837. That was more of the medical marijuana. But most importantly, there's Proposition 64 that allowed recreational use, and that would come into effect January 1st, 2018. So in 2017, there was Senate Bill 94 to kind of merge the two and make everything in one place for the recreational and the medical marijuana. So DPR, which is the little leaf, we don't actually regulate or make new laws for cannabis specifically. We help advise the regulators and licensing bodies of cannabis, and those are the three on the right. That's the Bureau of Cannabis Control, California Department of Public Health, and Cal Cannabis. So the Bureau of Cannabis Control, they are actually part of the Department of Consumer Affairs. So they're licensing retailers, distributors, testing labs, and micro businesses. They're on the back end, I don't know if it's the back end or the front end actually. But they're there for the final product and licensing of that kind of distribution. The California Department of Public Health, they are the ones who made sure that there's proper labeling, that what's in the package goes along with what is on the label, and that the packaging is child-proof. So there's a variety of different ways in which they have these child-proof packages. I think right now the cannabis itself has to be in a child-proof package, and then there's another package that package has to be inside of. But they really want to make sure that that's safe. Cal Cannabis is part of the Department of CDFA, Department of Food and Agriculture. So they're the ones who are working with the farmers. They do cultivation licensing, and they've also set up the track and trace system where anything from they assign a number from the seed or the seedling of the plant and follow it all the way through until the end. And so you can trace back the product that you buy in the store and know exactly where it came from and all the hands that it's gone through. So in California, I'm sure most of you already know that there's 58 counties and they all have a county ag commissioner. And some of them are smaller, so maybe there might be one ag commissioner for 2 counties. There's a few places where that happens. DPR and the county ag commissioners, they enforce the use and sale of pesticides under Division 6 and 7 of the California Food and Ag Code, and also Title 3 of the California Code of Regulations. The county ag commissioners are the people who really are on the ground doing the work in pesticide regulation. We, DPR and the county ag commissioners, of course, work together, but they're the people who are out there in the field doing inspections and making sure that pesticides are stored properly, people are wearing their PPE, that people have the correct records of everything as well. They also do the operator IDs. So cannabis growers, this is a common question that we get, is, what kind of a license do we need from DPR? Well, you don't need a license from DPR, but you do need the operator ID from your county ag commissioners. And that's the same for if you are growing any agricultural commodity, it's not different. And all of the pesticides that are put on cannabis, they also have to be, you have to report those as well, just like you would in an ag commodity. If you are applying a registered pesticide, that needs to be reported as well. There's all of the same legal requirements for cannabis as any other crop. So pest control advisors, when they're doing written recommendations for cannabis growers, they have to adhere to the same laws that you would for any other agricultural commodity. And so cannabis growers, a big question that they have that they go to the county ag commissioner to ask when they're looking for some guidance is, what pesticide can I use on my cannabis? And that can get to be a difficult thing to answer sometimes, because as you heard before, there aren't really, there aren't any labels that have cannabis written as the crop that you can use. So what happens? What can we use on cannabis? And we all know the label is the law when it comes to pesticides, pesticide application. You should find just about all of the information there. And one issue is, if cannabis is not on the label, how do I know what I can use? Well, first I want to say what you 100% cannot use. Things that you cannot use, for sure, include pesticides that are not registered for food use. So, looking forward, as hemp has been legalized by the federal government, we might think, okay, so hemp could possibly be on labels in the future. Well, hemp is not a food crop, so it's not going to be the same. If you're going to see something that says hemp, that doesn't necessarily mean you'll be able to use it on your cannabis. Anything that is a California restricted material, so on the label it'll say, this is a restricted use pesticide, you're not going to be allowed to use that on your cannabis. And anything that is on the groundwater protection list, that's also not allowed to be used on cannabis. I know you had a talk earlier from my colleague Aniela. I wasn't here for that, but I'm sure she did a great job and maybe talk to you about what is on that list, and those are things that are easy to get into groundwater. So we want to be safe with that. All right, now let me try to answer what can be used on cannabis. There are 2 requirements for things that can be used on cannabis. The first requirement is that it has to be tolerance exempt. And the second requirement is it's either a 25B product or not a use in conflict. So I'm thinking you all know what is tolerance exempt and what are 25B products. It's like clove oil, some things that are very benign and thought to be extremely safe. Not a use in conflict, now that gets a bit more dicey. So since nothing has cannabis written on its label, we're kind of looking for labels that might have a broadening language on it. And it has to have food uses, and that can get difficult. So somebody who is in the field looking at a pesticide and they say they want to get to use this, they go to their county ag commissioner and ask their ag commissioner, they bring that label, that pesticide, and say, is this something that I can use? The county ag commissioner will look at the label, and either they will give them a determination about that right then. They can say yes or no, or you can use it just in these certain aspects of growing your cannabis and not in others, or they can come and give that label to DPR. DPR has a group of, I believe it is 6 people who look at the labels and get together, make a determination as to whether or not that will be allowed to be used. Then they go back and they tell the county ag commissioner their determination, and the county ag commissioner can tell the farmer. I do want to say one more thing about this actually. We have been asked if there's a list of pesticides to be used on cannabis, and we don't put a list of things that can be used, just like we don't for any crop say what you can necessarily use on cannabis. But looking forward, we say, what is it that can change from here? The federal government is constantly changing. We don't know always what direction it's going in, but with the hemp legalization and so many states legalizing cannabis use recreationally, I'm sure that things are going to change. It's a matter of time, and this field is constantly going to be changing. We also have our local leader who just got into office, so things can be changing at the local level. Nothing has come out yet that's new, but it's expected that things may keep changing, and we'll try to keep on top of that. So I was pretty short on my presentation.
We'll take questions for both Wesley and Kelly right now. Oh.
Yes?
Wes, do you ever run into any situations where you have a naturally occurring compound that mimics a pesticide or a toxic compound, or something that's naturally occurring in the cannabis that mimics?
Well, it's certainly possible. Thank you for the question. One thing that works in our favor is that we have some pretty big advances